Hi, it's Leaf. Still alive and more or less well. You didn't expect that, did ya? Ha! Well, I am here because, well, honestly, it's high time I stopped being lazy. And, of course, because another game I previously talked about, Starsand Island, is now in early access, and I've been playing it quite a bit, and obviously I have opinions, and I'm sure it's absolutely necessary for me to share them. But now, honestly, I really liked the demo. It did have its problems, but I did like it a lot, and I was quite excited for the game to be released. I was under the impression that we're getting a full version, but we got early access instead. To be honest, I didn't exactly know the details. I know Starsand Island was funded on Kickstarter, and I completely missed the campaign. I literally only learned about the game when I saw the demo on Steam last year, and I also don't exactly follow the development, so I only know so much. In any case, early access is here, and I am both pleasantly surprised and a bit disappointed with the current state of the game, but mostly pleasantly surprised. I'm very happy they actually added a hotbar. In the demo, we had to cycle through our tools with a mouse wheel, but the same mouse wheel also switched between the interactable elements of the environment, which made certain things, especially tending to crops, a tad chaotic. But now, the chaos is mostly in the past, thankfully, and we have a regular hotbar. In fact, 2 bars that we can easily switch between. Lovely. Having said that, it doesn't mean that all the chaos has been dealt with. No. Having lots of animals, especially if they can freely roam the farm, is a special kind of hell. And once again, all the interactable things are the culprit. Petting, cleaning, milking, shearing, collecting, checking. Dear gods, there are so many things you need to do in this game when raising animals. It's not even funny. And the little rascals keep moving around, sometimes blocking us from doing what we're supposed to do just by sheer proximity to like 6 other things that we can interact with. So yeah. And while I understand that most of that chaos is my own fault, because I could organize my farm better and build enclosures or something, that's not entirely the case, because while there's a limit of 4 animals per shelter, those 4 animals can easily cause enough chaos even if they remain in or in close proximity to their designated buildings. 4 or 14, there's little difference. They still get in the way. Luckily, if we level up enough, we can automate things like cleaning, milking, and petting and other such activities, which means we don't have to do everything by hand and one by one. But at least we can definitely feel the progression system actually working, because yes, things get significantly easier as the time goes by. Progression system is quite well designed too, I have to admit. We have 5 major professions: crafting, farming, ranching, fishing, and adventuring, and each has 5 levels. And their progression is very neatly intertwined and linked together, so actually it's best to level them up more or less in parallel, as much as possible. But that also means that we can't pick and choose. We're gonna have to dabble in everything, and certain things are necessary not only to reach that sweet expert level and get our final certificate, but sometimes simply to level up other professions. As I said, they're linked. But frankly, once you start, you kind of feel compelled to finish the journey, even if you don't physically need to. I'm no completionist, and I usually don't feel like, for example, keeping too many animals. I don't like keeping too many. I don't like ranching. But even my lazy ass feels a bit guilty for ignoring such clearly defined goals. So yeah, I wasn't planning on keeping horses, especially multiple horses. But for now, I must. Simply to graduate. Besides, ranching is surprisingly fun. Animals are unbearably cute. And there's a whole DNA trait system that parents can give to their young, not to mention mutations, which means that certain types of animals cannot be purchased, only bred, and sometimes obtained as rewards, but that's a different story. Farming is almost just as detailed, and although crops are just crops, albeit also necessary for some things, there are different variants of them as well. For example, rare immortal type, which not only can be grown during any season, but also keeps on regrowing indefinitely from just one seed. There are of course also giant versions of certain crops like watermelons or pumpkins. And yes, to level up farming, you will also need to grow at least 2 of those and then craft furniture with them. It's complicated. But not really. The game is very clear about your goals and rewards you for basically everything, especially if you get used to checking the menus. disguised as apps in your in-game phone. There you can track your progress, spend points, get rewards, and check all the in-game challenges and achievements, and there's plenty of those. The game is also very player-friendly, so much quality of life stuff. It has crafting from storage and questing from storage, and most of the stuff that you have to do by hand can be eventually automated, including mining and fishing. You can get to all your chests by opening just one, just like in My Time at Sandrock. And to be completely honest, in many ways this game plays a lot like My Time at Sandrock, even if the vibe is different. There are some striking similarities. The overall visual style is absolutely different, but some elements feel almost identical. But the devs don't even try to hide the connection. Indeed, they celebrate it by putting 4 of the My Time characters in Starsand Island. We can meet Gust, Ginger, Nia, and Fang, technically with X, but he disappeared on me right after the introduction. So yeah, the connection is obviously there. But for the life of me, I cannot understand the reason for all those characters being there. We can talk to them, we can befriend them, they have their own houses, they can give us quests, but honestly, the only purpose they seem to serve is to, I don't know, lure the My Time fans into the game? Their presence also makes very little sense because the Starsand world clearly cannot be the same world as the one in the My Time series, no matter what the signs at the train station are trying to tell you. So the crossover seems to be purely for sentimental and cosmetic reasons. Anyway, the idea behind the gameplay in Starsand Island and in the My Time series, especially Sandrock, is basically the same. But unlike the My Time series, here there is no clear focus on any one profession. You can focus on anything, technically, because in practice, you'll need to focus on everything. Because leveling up those 5 professions is currently the main and only goal you work towards in this game. Of course, you can take your time, the game tells you to do this or that, but you don't have to rush things. The progression is neatly divided into separate chunks, every level of every profession has its own quest, and you decide when to accept it. And you won't be chasing the story because there is no story. Again, unlike the My Time series, Starsand Island is not story-driven, and in this regard feels more like, say, Stardew Valley. There are some charming little cutscenes when we meet certain characters, and there are some cutscenes during festivals, but basically, that's it. Because in the demo there were some so-called heart events and even dates, I suppose they will be back in the full version of the game. But so far there's nothing. There's no real romance or friendship, and even the dialogue is very limited. Yes, as we increase the level of relationship, we unlock additional interactions, but so far that amounts to very little. And since there is no main story, this is literally the only story-like content we can expect. And for the moment, most of it is missing. And that, unfortunately, is one of the things that I am actually disappointed with. Because, while I like relaxed open-ended gameplay, I love stories. In Stardew Valley, I basically rushed from festival to festival and from heart event to heart event, in the meantime trying to find as much lore as possible. There wasn't that much story, but there was plenty of lore to be discovered. But I also like action and combat. I like it quite a bit, and that basically makes the My Time series perfect for me. That's why Sandrock is one of my favorite games of all times, because it has everything I like. Yes, there is combat in Starsand Island. There are even boss fights, but despite combat being an integral part of one of the professions, it feels almost like an afterthought. Enemies are only in the mines, and there's very few of them. And while they respawn, it quickly becomes incredibly boring, to be honest. Also, at this point, combat is a bit broken, as technically we fight bosses on arenas, which the enemies are confined to, but we are not, in most cases, meaning we can move away from the area slightly. The poor boss gets stuck and can't really reach us. Its distance attacks are usually very easy to avoid, and all we have to do is to simply shoot from outside of the arena without taking any damage. And the last, technically the most difficult boss, can be easily stun-locked for the whole encounter. I mean, what's even the point? Okay, to be completely honest, no, I don't think combat is all that important, and I know some cozy players don't like it at all. I can live with simple bare-bones combat. and I can live with very basic story. And Starsand Island has plenty of atmosphere to make up for some of the shortcomings. The charming slice of life anime feel is nice enough to just, be in it. But I won't lie, a little story is better than zero, at least for me. Friendship and romance stories will do just fine. Most modern games of this genre have at least minimal story content, so that's what I understandably expect. Because playing just for the sake of playing is not enough for me, no matter the atmosphere. However, I do believe that more content is coming. Anyway, having complained to my heart's content, I must say that even playing for the sake of playing has a lot more to offer in Starsand Island than one could expect. There's actually quite a lot to do, profession-related content aside. There's exploration, and let me tell you, the map is gorgeous. I can just walk around taking photos and be perfectly happy. And traveling is another wonderful thing. You can travel on foot, on a skateboard. There are wonderfully animated rollerblades. There's a number of mechanical vehicles like cars and motorcycles, and there are mounts. We can also swim, we can use boats. The town itself is wonderfully designed and feels like something that could actually exist in the real world. And we don't get that feeling that things are scaled down or simplified in any way. Unfortunately, that scale causes some rendering issues, and certain elements, especially trees, consistently and brutally pop into view from thin air. So, I suppose that needs some fixing. The game, despite its obvious Japanese anime style, really leans into its Chinese origins, which, if you know anything about me, is making me very happy. There's even a huge temple complex with multiple buildings in a traditional Chinese style with its own somewhat lazy Taoist priest, Yo Fang. And there's a beautiful Chinese-themed lake, complete with lotus flowers and whimsical bamboo rafts. There are outfits and dance emotes representing multiple ethnic groups of China, and all that in a clearly anime-inspired setting with a lot of shout-outs to Japanese culture. The game also makes a huge nod towards my and everybody else's favorite scene from Spirited Away, the train scene. There are train tracks in the ocean. I rest my case. So if you like Japanese stuff and Chinese stuff, or both, you should be happy. I know I am. Anyway, back on track. As I already mentioned, there are outfits that we can buy or make. We can also visit a hair and makeup salon, and yeah, the options for now are limited, and clothes are damn expensive. I mean, some items are, I'm almost sure, more expensive than land. But the customization options show promise, and don't even get me started on building and decorating, because it's jaw-dropping. It's literally jaw-dropping. I couldn't find any placeable books, and I need books on my shelves, okay? But other than that, the possibilities are almost endless. And if you're like me and cannot build to save your life, but wish to have a nice house anyway, you can simply buy a layout and either build it yourself by getting all the necessary materials and items, or if you have enough in-game currency, you can just go to the furniture store and buy a ready-to-place version with everything already in it, which is exactly what I did. And then you can customize it further, obviously. You can add things, remove them, repaint, redecorate, whatever you want. And that's not all, because while you can buy more land around your first plot, like in the My Time series, you can also, at some point, unlock the ability to buy other plots, including a whole small island. So, despite currently having no story, which may or may not be a problem for you, this is already a good game. It is very detailed, quite meticulously designed, and has a lot to offer. Granted, the romanceable characters are rather bland because there's really no way to get to know them, for now. People also complain there is no diversity, and while I don't really care, because I see the cast as basically anime characters, I can agree that when 3 or 4 completely unrelated characters look like they could be siblings, we may have a design problem. And if you don't give them different looks, at least give them different personalities, but for that, you need more content. A lot more content. Anyway, Starsand Island is not perfect. A lot is still missing, and there are some unnecessary elements, and yeah, I mean the My Time characters. I don't mind them, but they're basically fluff, and that's it. However, the game is charming and already surprisingly well-rounded, despite everything I complained about. I could use some heart events, I could use better combat, maybe not more involved nor harder, but at least not broken. and I could definitely use more cosmetic options for everything. But after playing for around 60 hours, I definitely don't regret buying this game, and actually I wholeheartedly recommend it. Starsand Island is quite cool. And that's gonna be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you in my next video, whenever that might be. Have a good one, and take care.